Hello and welcome to the show. You're watching Second Amendment Sis. I'm Steffanie Rivers. Come on in, kings and queens, and welcome to the conversation. We are multicasting on several platforms on YouTube and Facebook Live and Twitter and LinkedIn. And normally I have with me my co-host, Phyllis Petit, but she is not here today. She's on assignment. And she might be able to make it later on in the show. But for now, you got me holding it down. So we want to thank you for being with us. We've got so many, our viewership is growing. And we just want for you to come in and know that you can learn something new every week about the Second Amendment, the community, and what we want to link you with people in your community. Now, a lot of people want to know how to get started in weapons training and how you get started in the 2A community. And just to let you know, my first experience with purchasing a weapon was over 20 years ago when I had a stalker, basically. And I had to, I felt like I needed to defend myself. The stalker cut my tires every other day, broke into my house every other day, and I got to the point where now, even 20 years later, 30 years later, I know how to change a tire in about 15 minutes because I had to go to work. And so, you know, when things come your way, when challenges come your way, sometimes, you know, it's for the better. And so I feel like I'm a better person for it. But and at that time, there were not a lot of stalking laws from state to state to help women or people being stalked to maneuver their way through the system. But nowadays there is a lot of states have addressed this issue, but still there are domestic violence issues on the rise. And one of the people who is using his expertise as a concealed carry and weapons instructor is Dexter Mitchell. He's president and CEO of Vivid Armor LLC, and he teaches license to carry classes. And he's going to talk to us about his classes that he also works with local churches to help them to be ready in case of emergencies arise. So we want to welcome Dexter Mitchell to the show, aka Dex. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me on tonight.
No problem. Thanks for being here. So Dexter, it seems like you do a lot. You sent me your resume, and you teach classes, you train other people to teach classes. You are a weapons expert. You work with churches, teaching them to have a plan, an emergency action plan. So what is it? How did you become in a space where you wanted to devote so much time to helping people, especially women, to be more proficient with weapons and self-defense?
Well, it sort of started off with my personal family and making sure that they were well protected and making sure that the domestic violence situation doesn't get too much out of hand. And unfortunately, you're having me on tonight, and I'm several of my frat brothers are on from H. York Harris, and we experienced a personal loss in our family just last week with the loss due to a domestic relationship and a murder-suicide of one of my frat brothers. So to H. York Harris and Lodge 32 in Duane, you're in our thoughts and prayers. And that was the mission behind making sure that women and or Black African American women did not have to put up with stalkers or be in a domestic relationship. And a gun is not the answer to everything, but from time to time, you do need to be able to protect yourself if that type of threat comes against you.
Right. And so, what I've also learned is I know we're talking about primarily about uh, being ready and being proficient using weapons. But a lot of times, just like you said, even in the heat of the moment, you don't want a weapon to be your go-to defense. I've learned that you can de escalate, and that might mean, if it's a stranger, or if it's not a stranger, you might use a pepper spray. You might use, some type of physical move if they're too close to you, or if they are close to you. You don't always want to take it from 0 to 100, especially when you can't come back from 100. You want to be able to defend yourself without it getting, to the point where somebody loses their life.
Absolutely. So when we talk about that, a long time ago, a million years ago, when I was in college, I started off with judo, which is a Japanese form of self-defense, which judo actually stands for the gentle way, versus jujitsu, which is what you see a lot of in MMA, mixed martial arts. So judo is throws, chokes, flips, and arm bars. And the Japanese term for it is kazushi, where you have to break balance of somebody else and use their strength against you. But as of Saturday, my CPL class was on Sunday. Saturday, I was teaching de-escalation to the church, because you're absolutely right. Let's have a broad knowledge of everything that we're doing. And that starts with, are you able to walk away? Are you able to get away from a situation? Are you able to sit and use that person's words to say, okay, I understand where you're coming from, to see what they're looking for, and then defuse the situation? Those are all of the wide ranging options that we go from. But you have to have a lot of things in your quiver to make sure that you can be safe. And so you're absolutely right. Coming back from 100 is not the end all or beginning, but making sure that you can de escalate, making sure that you have home security, making sure that, what might scare a stalker is a motion light. And now we have things like a Ring doorbell that comes through, and Ring doorbells can be networked together. You've got the Ring security light. You've got all of these technology options that even if you're not home and somebody walks up to your home, it alerts you on your telephone.
Right. And then you can even pretend that, hey, can I help you, when you're really like, up the street somewhere, but they don't know that you're not right there. And so, right, that's a deterrent. So you've been teaching for over what, 15 years? What are some of the most common deficiencies, or issues that people show up to your class with, that you try to address right away?
So in the Black community, it's the stereotype of, if you shoot somebody outside, you got to drag the body in the house. No, there's a real thing called CSI, and it's just not a TV show. So make sure that you do have a plan of action. Make sure that you know what you're going to do. Some deficiencies is people who show up to my class are thinking about buying a firearm, but they've never held one, touched one, loaded up the magazine. They don't understand caliber or recoil. And so we start them off with laser firearms that just shoot out a light, and or blue guns, the little plastic ones, so that we can show them the grip. And I go through a basic count and go, how many trigger fingers do you have? Well, one. That's right. Well, how many thumbs do you have? Two. Your dominant hand's going to have three for the grip on the base, and your support hand's going to have four. So if you can count up to four, you should be able to hold a gun. And they kind of laugh, and I teach with a sense of humor, but it's to break the ice and make people feel more comfortable. So when I start off class, I ask them, have you ever fired a gun? firearms. And in that period of time that I have you, we go from A to Z, and we develop a relationship. So they get my information, they get my contact information, because what I have learned over the years is those questions are not going to come up while you're sitting at the table or you're standing in front of me. What's going to end up happening is you go home and somebody asks you something, you go, oh, well, who do I ask? Well, look, you can ask me. So I've talked to my students about flying with their handguns, driving with the handguns, which states have reciprocity, which states don't, or giving them the tools so that they're able to find it and be self-sufficient. So it's a process. I get them for one day, but we create that bond that hopefully lasts for a longer period of time.
So do you suggest that a person comes to your class before they purchase a handgun?
Absolutely. Even and it's so funny because I was so energetic about the call. Just this week, a young lady called me and she had bought a firearm. She went up to her cousin's house. She bought a 380, and she shot it for the first time. It kicked a lot. She dropped it. She shot it more times, and then she took it apart and she couldn't get it back together. And she was frustrated about it. I said, "Where are you at?" She ended up being about 10 minutes away from work. So I said, "Look, I'll meet you at a public spot. Boom, boom, boom. I'll put it together for you, make sure it works fine." And she was like, "Okay, well, this is what I bought." Or salespeople will often sell you different things like the lasers. Oh, you can't miss with the laser. Well, you still need to be proficient with it. You need to understand the proper grip. So many times you get what's called a stovepipe because individuals won't hold the firearm correctly. So we go through where your thumb placement should be at. Slide bite is a real thing. If you ever tried to hold a gun and you get that uncomfortable feeling where they will wrap both of their thumbs around it, and if you're okay with it, I do have a couple of them sitting around me just in case I needed them. But the slide bite, and this is locked open with no magazine, people will grip it like they're trying to grip it, and they put both of their thumbs behind it, and it will actually rip the skin off of you. And then you'll drop it. It's a loud sensation when you don't have your ears on. So bringing them into class and slowly rising them up, shooting a 22 until they're comfortable with it, going to a 9 millimeter. And the shocking thing that a lot of my students find out is I have them on the first day shoot a 45. It's a Shield Performance 45 with ported barrels, which has less of a recoil to it, and it has more of a smooth pushback to it. And a lot of them like it better than the 9 millimeter, but it's a 45. If they go out and they get a big cannon right away, like a 45, it might scare them. And they're very accurate. It has high vis sights on it. So what I've done is streamlined it to make it the easiest for a new beginner shooter, because there's nothing worse than getting somebody scared to come in there, and then they don't end up doing it right.
And you know what? I lost my thought, but I think I'm going to get it back. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I like, a lot of people they talk about the value of going to a gun range that's outside, which I have started going outside to outside gun range. But I live in the city, and the closest gun range is the indoor range. It's like 3 miles from where I live. And so, one of the things that I always tell people is most gun ranges have a ladies' night, and you can, on ladies' night, you don't have to pay for use of a weapon. You can go in and try all the different weapons, see how it fits your hand. All you have to do is purchase the um, ammunition and the target. And so that way, before you end up investing in a weapon that doesn't fit your hand, or that you end up, not being equipped to use properly, then that'll help you to go and try out a weapon. And so that's why I like the indoor weapons. But now I also see the value in the outdoor ranges, because of being able to move, because your target is not going to stand there and let you shoot them. So you're going to have to do some type of maneuvering and be comfortable with moving around and drawing from concealment and all of these things. And so that's great that that you are able to help people to get more comfortable. Now, I do have a video. I'm going to try to show it of you in your class. So we'll show that and then we'll come right back.
Oh, well, I'm not your volunteer.
What does that mean to you? I need some help.
Yes.
Do you want to approach me?
No.
Why?
Because I don't know what's wrong.
But you know something's about to go down.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. In that, escape or engage in threat. Thank you very much for being my volunteer.
Okay, so in that, and it might have been a little distorted because I think it was recorded on a cell phone, and then this screen is different. But at any rate, what I got from that was, and I think we all need to be more vocal, and because when you are vocal, you might not even have to get physical. If you're vocal, and when people are coming towards you and you feel threatened, for you to get loud, that draws attention. So that lets other people know what's going on. And that lets the person know, okay, this person is serious. I'm not going to be able to just walk up on them. So I appreciated that what you were trying to express in the class. Now, was that I know you have a class that has 2 parts. Was that the first part of the class?
So that was the CPL part of the class, and we were talking about what happens when you engage a threat. So you can escape, you can avoid, escape, or engage. And so avoid means when those spider hairs start tingling on the back of your neck and you know something's about to go wrong, you have anywhere from a minute or more to just leave the scene. However, it drops down to about 15 to 30 seconds when you get to the point where you have to now escape from something because you sense the danger. And then it goes from 5 seconds or less when you have to engage. And engage the threat doesn't mean that you have to pull out your firearm and shoot somebody. What that means is even if you don't understand it, and I teach it in a method of saying, I'm going to teach you a new language. And the body language is my hand is out, my firearm is out there. It's a blue gun. In that case, it was actually orange, but I call them all blue guns. She didn't understand the language I was speaking, but she knew not to approach me and to get away, but getting loud and doing that. And shouts out to my son for staying in the class and doing the videotape. By the way, there's an extra R that's in the armor.
Oh, okay. I will change that. So it's Vivid Armor with 2 R's.
Yes, ma'am.
All righty. So what is what's the second part of your class about? I know when I was doing my research, you do encourage where would I have that? Okay, so you talk about encountering mass shooters, you talk about proper equipment, drawing from concealment, shooting on a timer, and dry firing. What's the significance of shooting on a timer and dry firing?
So the significance of dry firing, even if you don't do another class, I always talk to them and I go, look, you can go to Amazon.com and get some of the things that I have in here. But shooting on a timer says, how long is it going to take for you to do this? And usually when that timer comes out, so I have joined a league where I'm a USPSA shooter now, so United States Practical Shooting Association, and we do exactly that. We have additional magazines on our hips. We have a timer, we have pop-up, we have steel targets, we have a Texas Star, and you have to shoot them, or a plate match where either you have a dueling tree where you have to put the plates on the other side, or you knock down the plates as you go with it. Because once you get your concealed carry, the next evolution is keep up the training and do something more advanced. And so that's where that relationship comes in at on how do you draw your firearm out. One of my brothers and a couple people in class have all said, the most crisp thing that you can hear to stop somebody is the racking of a shotgun. So I have them rack a shotgun in there, but I always close my classes out with individuals seeing a video of a mother and a daughter who were working at a convenience store in Phoenix. And the mother literally shot the gentleman 5 times. The daughter shot him twice in the back. The guy was still able to overpower them.
Wow.
And he finally bled out. And I do that, and I have my students, I have throughout the class, I develop a relationship with them. So I give them nicknames and we make jokes and we have a bond as we're going through. And I have one of them in the classroom count on how many shots came through, because that's what I also want to talk to people about is it's just not enough when you hear someone say, hey, look, I've got a gun. Oh, they should run away, or you fire that warning shot. A lot of times a home invasion is 4, 5, 6 people where they corral the people into the room. 2 people are holding them, or 3 people are holding them, and the rest of them are going through your house, taking things from you. And a violation in your house, I mean, you told your story earlier about being stalked and how people have broken into your house to do those things. That stays with you years and years later. And then you come out, I want to try to get them before that point, talk to them about firearms, talk to them about motion sensors, talk to them about trimming the bushes down in front of their houses, talk to them about their neighbors. What type of neighborhood do you live in? If you rack off 4, 5, 6 shots in the middle of the night, will that alert your neighbors? Do you have a strategy, even if you have to leave your home? Which house can you go to? Much like practicing for a fire drill, practice, you don't want to ever have a fire in your home. You don't ever want to have somebody invade your home. And even more likely, you don't want somebody to carjack you or stop you when you're leaving the grocery store or while you're out shopping. So how are you going to be prepared? And you do some mental exercises to prepare for that.
And you know, I agree, and I guess mostly women are what's the word? We're more guilty of this, where I have so many things with me in the car, or when I'm going to the coming from the grocery store, when I come from the gym, and I cannot just get in the car and go, or I cannot just come home and get out and go straight in. I have to gather my things. I got to think about some stuff. I might get on my little phone and text. And so that, if somebody's watching, they're thinking, okay, this is a good time because she's preoccupied right now. And so, but you always have to be mentally ready and engaged. And so that leads me to my next question of, being I know you teach people. I saw a video of you working with your 13-year-old niece, helping her to shoot, and working with visually impaired people. And the guy who shot at the range, he did a pretty good job, probably better than some sighted people could do. So what other how do you teach people as young as 13 and who are even visually impaired? What are you teaching them? Is it like another sense, another of their 5 senses that they are using?
So that's all depends. You meet your students where they're at, and then you bring them up. So whether it's a private class and it's a father who says, well, I can bring 150 rounds for everybody and my wife and daughter, I'm like, hold on. All they're gonna need is about 50 rounds. If you want to shoot that much, you can go ahead and do it. I'm gonna talk to your wife and daughter. Talking with my 13-year-old niece and doing it, my sister needed to get her CPO renewed. So when we were back at home in Saginaw, I said, let's go out, let's go through these things. And my sister was shooting, and you could just see, and I don't know if you have any 13-year-olds in your family or not, but those teenagers, sometimes you don't think they have teeth unless they're eating because they're never smiling. And she had one of the biggest smiles on her face. She shot a 22, and we had some steel targets out there, and she was actually hitting the steel targets, and you could see the reaction. And she was like, okay, I got this, I got this. But I introduced her to shooting. I introduced my nephew to shooting. And I think when Evan was 8 years old, bought him a Red Ryder Daisy BB gun because, I'm that kind of uncle. And when I bought it for him, his dad was excited about it and said, does it have a compass on it? So I'm excited. His dad is excited. My cousin Tony's excited about it. And my niece walked up to me. She goes, well, Uncle Dexter, I'd like that too. And I said, I got you. When she turned around and she had her birthday, I bought her a BB gun as well. My visually impaired student is he is blind, completely blind. He was sighted at one point in time, but he puts together a golf organization. He actually goes out and golfs. He does horseback riding. He does a ton of things. I've been in the car with him. He's one of my planning commissioners for my day job. And I've been in the car with him. And as I turned the corner to take him to do some banking, he literally said to me, "It's the second driveway." And I looked at him, I said, "Bill, you are not blind," because I was thinking that same thing. And he started laughing. But he got 9 out of 10 in that video. And it was just because I set him up, had him have his grip, and he was very comfortable with his body. And what I told my students that day was, look, if the blind guy can do it, or visually impaired guy can do this, the rest of you should have no problem at all. And they were all looking around going, oh my goodness. Now, my other students, to tell you the truth, got a smaller sheet of paper to hit, but I modified it to a full silhouette size for him. And out of that full silhouette size, he got 9 in the paint, which is the green part, and one probably 2 inches above the head. And so, and cracking jokes that are clean, I said, you know what? That would have scared if that person would have had a poo-poo burger. And the class cracked up because a bullet going past your head would do something like that. So meet your students where they're at and then bring them forward. That's why the relationship during the class and after the class is so important.
So let's talk a little bit about what you do with your clients who are churches, as a, So I understand what you teach. You just finished teaching Bible study. And so after Bible study class, then what? Y'all teach weapons training? What's going on at your church,
Well,
Dex?
hold on. I don't want my pastor to go, oh, Brother Mitchell, you want to teach a Bible study class. That's not it. So we're going to stop that one right there. Um, we do the de-escalation is part of the security ministry, ushers ministry, risk management, and those people are doing it because what we found out during the pandemic, and our pastor actually sat through the stuff and he was like, I did not know y'all were dealing with all that. And we honestly said, well, Pastor, you're not supposed to know. Your job is to preach to the church and feed them. Ours is to make sure that everything out here runs smoothly. So we've had to deal with people with mental illnesses, people who may have experienced some type of substance abuse who are coming into the church, and or the mental disorders. Or we literally had a gentleman come in and said, and I quote, "What is this?" And I was standing at the front door. This is during COVID, and I'm like, "This is a church." Well, what church is this? And I gave him the church's name, and he was like, okay. And I'm like, well, can we help you with something? He goes, and he just looked like he was freaking out. And I said, well, are you here for service? Are you here for this? He goes, no, no, no. And my partner who was at the door, we kind of just stood around, talked to him to see where he was, and he peacefully left the facility.
Hmm.
Now, hopefully that's what happens every time. But when we talk about de-escalation, some people may want to get to the pastor. Some people may want to get on stage, and especially now with World Star or any of these videos, they want to do some things, or they may want to be looking for somebody and harm them. So it's vigilant for the ushers, for the security ministry, and I encourage every church to have some type of security ministry. We've talked about, and it occurred in Texas probably 2 years ago. There was a church shooting where the gentleman came, and I use simple terms: white, black, Caucasian gentleman came in. There was a black uh, usher who was going to give him communion. He pulled a shotgun out. He turned to the security person who had been watching him. He shot the security officer, shot the usher, and then he proceeded to go down to the pulpit. Uh, and one of the security ministries placed one shot that ended the threat. It was a headshot from probably 60 feet or more, and it stopped it. In the great state of Texas, there was probably another 7 or 8 people that came out with their firearms presented. But it's not necessarily a wake up call, but it is one that says stop. These things are occurring in our houses of worship. These things are coming in where people want to come and be safe. And what most churches will say, I'm not sure about the laws in Texas, but in Michigan, you cannot carry a firearm into a church unless you have the permission of the pastor or the governing board. And so they have to give you that permission. But when giving that permission comes great responsibility. And so with that responsibility, you have to go through de-escalation. You have to go through the different training programs that are in. You have to qualify with your firearm. That's right, the firearm that you would choose to carry, you have to qualify with and make sure that you're proficient with it. And so we do it on a pass fail, and it's on the FBI standards list with regards to how many shots go into where and where that placement is.
Okay, so if someone or a church or an organization wants you to help them to create a emergency plan, that's what you do at your company,
So
vividarmor.com.
So right now, it's in the trial phases with my own personal church. And what we're doing with that is I have a partner. His name is O, because it's hard to pronounce his entire name. And so he's an active USPSA shooter as well, ex-military. But we also have some law enforcement officers in our church who are putting together the exact same thing. And so if they contact me, I would put them in touch with their local police department. One of the not critical things, but simple things that we talked to our church about was lettering the doors. How many people know where the north, south, east, and west are? And if you got to think about it, you really don't know. Because if there's a stressful situation, all of your higher functioning skills, they check out, and we need to have it at the basic bottom level for you. So that's why when you see fire extinguishers, it doesn't say fire extinguisher, it just says fire, and here it is, or it has reflective tape on it. So what we talked to this particular church about was putting letters on the inside that are reflective, and on the outside. So if there's something that goes on, say if there is a fire in the church, you're coming out of the A door, not the main entrance, because if somebody's coming there for the first time and they are police or rescue, do they know where your main door is? I'm coming out the side door. Is that this side door or that side door? So you'd be able to say door A, door B, door C, door E. Or where can we come in and get you at? I'm at window 5, I'm at window 6, and there be a reflective piece on the outside correlating with that. So it's a lot of, I call it the KISS system, keep it simple, Sam, is that you talk to people and you make it at an elementary level. It's like the AEDs. When the AEDs came out, they tested those on kindergarten students and they got a 90%. If kindergarten students can hold their attention long enough to get a 90%, the rest of us should be able to do it as well. So
Right.
yes, I would point them in the right direction for public safety or their police or fire departments.
And that makes a lot of sense because churches have many doors, many windows, as well as homes. And sometimes, the obvious front door is around the back or something like that. So you're correct on that. So something having a simple plan that everyone can kind of just go visually with and not have to think. So I have a photo here. Let's see if I can pull it up. This is a staccato, and I think that from what I understand of staccatos, Dex, they're like the top of the line and very expensive. Is this your go-to weapon?
Well, it's my new best friend. I have several best friends. No offense to my frat brothers, and they're probably in the background laughing. But yes, it's sort of the Ferrari of them. It is in 2011. STI, formerly STI, now Staccato, came out with it. It's the C2 Duo. It has a threaded barrel diamond, so it won't scratch. I do have an optic on it. It was the firearm that I just. Uh, it is very nice. It's a precision weapon created in Texas. And so part of you asked, how did you become an expert? I geek out on this stuff. So I read the magazines, I go through the books, I talk to other people about it. I take vacations to go to Texas to visit my lovely daughter as well, who's in Texas. But it just correlated behind one of the gun shows, and Staccato was one of the flagship sponsors for it. And so I went there in October, and they get me hooked. They let me shoot their firearm, and they gave me the ammo for it, and it was all free. So better than the ladies' night. It was a free piece for it, and I came back and started doing more and more classes, uh, making sure I packed my lunches and saved my pennies. Made it through Thanksgiving, made it through Christmas. The family was happy with everything, and so I say it this way: on MLK Day, a man who preached peace. I decided to purchase something that would be a peacekeeper, which was a Staccato, and on Ash Wednesday it came in.
Okay. So we do, you mentioned your frat brothers and other guests that you've invited. They are on in the wings, um so in support of you and the show. And so if anyone has a question or comment and you want to go live with us, just let me know. But I just want to say right here that we it seems like you are very, very knowledgeable. And so are you saying that Staccato, the company, they allowed you to take the weapon to help promote it, and that's kind of like how you got um where you were chosen to do that by being at the show?
Absolutely not. Staccato was very good. So I did get a chance to meet the president of the company. I met Tony, who's one of the spokespeople, Heather Miller, who actually coordinates for the state of Michigan. So once again, even in our email exchanges, you can tell when I went somewhere and I could talk to people about something that I want, I was all in 100%. And so they talked to me about those types of things. I got a chance to look at it. I love the Staccato that I have now, but I also have Glocks. I have Smith and Wessons. I have Springfield Armory. I have a couple Hellcats. Uh, I purchased that one on my own. So anything that I say about it wasn't sponsor related. It was just a fantastic opportunity and a great firearm.
Okay, so I know a lot of women are getting into shotguns and rifles, and I'm not there yet, mostly because I don't know where I would store the dang thing. Okay, it's so big, but what is the? But I did when I went to ladies' night at an indoor gun range recently. They had uh, a rifle frame, but the inside was a 9 millimeter. So I forgot what that is called. But anyway, you probably know what I'm referring to. Why would someone? Is that a good way to start with the rifle frame, but inside is a smaller weapon? And why would somebody even want that?
Somebody would want that because it would then allow them to shoot their handgun and then shoot their handgun with more accuracy. So it'll have a shoulder or an arm brace to it as well. But you'd be able to shoot your 9 millimeter, your 45 Glocks come out with it. I cannot think of the name of it right now because as soon as you said it, it went out of my head. But yes, I've seen those in there. And I do want to say this, one of my partners in my organization that actually opens up his range for me on the Sunday so I can bring my students in there is Joe Fulton with Freedom Firearms in Battle Creek. And every Friday they have a ladies' night where it's half off for them. So ladies' night is extremely important to ladies and or firearms. Because here's what I tell my students flat out. We know if the ladies will go to a place, the guys will go automatically. I still try
Toot,
to
toot,
encourage
toot,
my
toot.
wife. Exactly. It's just like at the club. Same thing. If you get the
Okay.
ladies in there, the fellas are going to come, but the fellas want to do it and allow the ladies to come in at their own pace. They don't need to come in as Jane Wick or Rambo at. Let them come in. If they want to keep shooting at 22, the point is to get them comfortable with it. And my buddy O, whose wife is now into it, he told me thank you because she got a chance to shoot my Staccato with a green dot on it. It has a red. It's a red dot for most people, but this one actually has a green optic in it because green picks up a little bit better on the eyes for just that couple extra seconds. So that's that geek in me coming out about it. And he goes, "Thank you." Now, brother, my wife wants one on her gun. I was like, "This, well, that's a good thing." Um, but getting them to shoot and rifle, I don't suggest AR-15s. And again, I know there's people who may watch this who aren't firearm friendly. An AR-15 is not the most powerful rifle out there. There are AK-47s, there's 8 millimeter, 10 millimeters, there's the mini 17s, the mini 14s. There is a plethora of rifles out there that will do it. Now, an AR-15 will go 400 yards. So if you're on the second story of a house and you fire an AR-15 in protection, that round could simply go through the drywall and continue into your neighbor's house. Shotguns are good, but for ladies in a shotgun, a 12 gauge may not be the one. A 20 gauge, dialing it down. So my son has owned a 20 gauge since he was 9 years old. I did not purchase it for him because at 9 years old, in our marital situation, my wife was still, I don't know if he's ready to do this. I don't know if he's ready to do that. But my father-in-law stepped in and he loved the 20 gauge. So my son is on the 20 gauge since he was 9 years old. I'm in charge of it and it's locked in the safe with everything else. But he has shot that. He shot the AR-15. I think he was at the range for one of the classes and the gentleman had an M4. And he looked at me and goes, "Dad, can I shoot it?" And I said, "If it's all right with him." So the guy ended up letting him shoot it, and he has a nice video on it. My son's 17. He has shot everything that I own. But getting young people, getting women actively involved in firearms is just a very simple start, meet them, and continue on with it. You'll develop an affinity for it and a love for it that will hopefully go for many, many decades.
Yeah, I agree. And just the more comfortable you are with something, the more likely you are to use it as a part of your in your toolkit, self-defense toolkit. And so that's important to start people off with anything. The earlier you start with something, the better and more proficient you'll become. And so I I know there are a lot of people wondering how can they, if they are in your area. So I learned from Bruce, one of your friends, that Saginaw and Kalamazoo are only an hour away from each other. I thought you had moved across across the state, but so somebody in Saginaw in or Kalamazoo or all points in between, if they want to work with you, Dex, they can do that. And you've given me the email address is info@vividarmor.com, or vividarmor.com is your website. And so those are the ways that people can get in touch with you. Are you on social media at all?
So YouTube, it's Vivid Armor LLC, or if you type in Vivid Armor, there's multiple videos of my visually impaired student or things that I'm doing. I plan on having some reviews. I've done a review on the Hellcat. I've done a review of, I call it being at the lab, and I did a drill called a 5x5, where you start off with a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, fold that in half, fold it in half again, and you get 5 rounds on each one of the pieces of paper, which goes back to a simple military philosophy: aim small, miss small, and bringing that to my students from there. So yes, I can. And I don't know how fast Bruce drives, but it usually takes me about 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I'm a little excitable in there. So Kalamazoo and Saginaw are a little bit further apart than about an hour. Of course,
Oh,
it's nothing to compare to Texas in the size of it. So I'm closer to the west side of the state now, and Saginaw is closer to the Detroit area.
oh, okay, yeah, because he said an hour, and I'm like, oh, Dex is not out of town. He is up the street somewhere. Right, because that's a local drive, an hour.
Yeah, so and the truth be told, I just did a class Sunday in Kalamazoo. I have another one Saturday at the H. York Harrison Lodge. And so what I do, and I haven't said it, and so let me get that out, is to former Commissioner Steffanie Moore Williams, who is my contact person for Mothers of Hope, which is a 501c3 here in Kalamazoo. And their mission is to help mothers and to help women. So they are a nonprofit that teaches piano lessons. They teach after school tutoring. They have a bunch of programs, and we connected with my day job. And a long time ago, we started talking, and I said, "Well, yeah, I do this." And the first 3, 4 classes that I had in Kalamazoo were all women, all Black women. It was a sea of fantastic learning and enthusiastic students. And so now it's branched out from there. And in Saginaw, I also support H. York Harrison, which is my frat. And we continue to give back to the community with tutoring programs, feedings, mentorship, and a whole bunch of other things in the community, because that's what it's about. Extending your cable tow to make sure that you can make sure that you're giving back to the community.
Well, thanks so much again for, and I know, Dex, I apologize. You said two R's and I put the R at the end instead.
I wasn't even gonna say that. I said, I'm gonna let it go. I'm like, I got it up here. I said, let me let you know. I was like, okay. I was gonna be smooth with it, but you told on yourself, so I said, all right.
Oh no, I was like, because I'm looking at the behind you, I'm like, he doesn't have two R's at the end. What is he talking about? And then I apologize, but I fixed it at
No.
the end. So anyway, is there anything that you want to add that we didn't ask?
Other than the firearms, get active into it. And I know we're not getting political on here. I do, in fact, love our government, but our government needs some work. And so, even right now in the Kalamazoo area, we're working on gun violence and curbing that. And that's one of my pet projects, especially coming from the inner city in Saginaw. And growing up, guns were a taboo type thing. It was always something bad. I want to educate. So, the three goals of Vivid Armor are safety, education, and confidence. Safety, first and foremost, education, understanding the laws and understanding what you have to do. And one of the things that we've done in this show, and I don't think anybody has caught on unless they've gone through the class, is using your vocabulary. And words like firearm, words like weapons, gives you that aristocratic view of, hey, look, I've had some type of training. When you say stuff like guns, and I have a lot of friends who are police officers, and they'll tell you in a minute, when you hear gun, it's a nervous one syllable word for them. And so if you get pulled over, make sure you say, I have my firearm with me, and here it is. I have my weapon on me, here it is. And you're not just saying, no, I got my gun on me, here's what we're going to do. When you say or do things like that, make sure that I tell my students all the time, um, I promote gun safes over gun locks. And so I understand why they make us take the gun locks because they want us to be safe. But I'll ask you the question. Have you ever been 20, and especially in the Dallas area, have you ever been 20 minutes from home and have to go to the bathroom?
Yes.
And then you get 15 minutes and 10 minutes and you really got to go. And you're doing the little dance, you done unbutton your seatbelt, you roll through the yield sign, you throw the car up in park, and you start running into the house. How easy is it to unlock the door? And people go, "Phew, man, I
It's
couldn't get the key in there."
right.
It's
Correct.
not. Imagine a thump in the night at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. How easy is it for you, who's now nervous, who's waking out of their sleep, to take that little key wherever you may have stored it at, get into that lock to open it up, to get your firearm out, to put a magazine in it, to get ready to engage any threat that's coming into your house? More than likely, that's where those statistics come in, where home gun owners have been hurt by their own firearms because they could not unlock them. It doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily make us safe, it makes us unsafe. So in doing so, please, 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 out of everything, go buy either a gun storage lock that has a combination to it or something that's biometric. So make sure that you can secure your firearms so that unauthorized individuals, or in the state of Michigan, anyone under the age of 21 doesn't have access to it. So that's my safety tip, is get something to store your firearms in so unauthorized individuals cannot get to it, but you can get to it. So please don't make the combination 000 or 1234. Pick something else. Don't make it complicated, because when you're under stress and under pressure, you've got to make it as simple as possible. And I do want to thank all of those who came out and all of those who said, who are out there to support me, including my family and those people who'll be seeing this later. And I told you, we'd make 45 minutes real easy.
You did, and I We'll be posting this to our social media platforms, as well as I will send the link to you, Dex, so you can post it wherever you'd like. And so hopefully we can help someone to get to the next level in the 2A community, and with being more proficient with their weapons training and self-defense. So thank you so much for sharing, and we might make you our go-to security expert. Who knows? You might be one of our rotating guests soon. So at any rate, you have a great rest of your week, and we will be talking to you, and then I'll email you the link later.
Shouts out to Mac as well for putting us in contact with each other.
Exactly, Mac. Yes, from the Caliber community. So thank you, Mac,
Yes.
so much for that. All right, so I'll see you next time, Dex. You have a good one.
You too. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. And thank you, viewers. We appreciate you being here with us to see this. Again, we're going to post it to our Facebook group page, Second Amendment Sis group page. And we have some other guests lined up for you for the remainder of March, moving into April. I know you might have expected Steffanie Marie. She's got an upcoming weapons training for women that we were going to talk about. So she pushed back the training. So we pushed back her conversation about that. So we'll also have her on. We got some more guests lined up for you. But you can always go to our Facebook page to see who we're talking with next and to see our past conversations. So we thank you again, and we'll see you next time on Second Amendment Sis.